In 1845, Sir John Franklin led an expedition of 129 men aboard two ships, HM Erebus and HMS Terror, aiming to explore the Northwest Passage, a strategic sea route connecting the Atlantic and Pacific through the Arctic. This was one of the most ambitious missions of the Victorian era, driven by scientific goals and imperial glory. The two ships, equipped with cutting-edge technology and built to withstand ice, departed from England to great public fanfare. However, after entering the Canadian Arctic, the entire expedition vanished without a trace. The mysterious disappearance sparked dozens of search efforts over the following decades, becoming one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history. Clues to their fate only slowly emerged through Inuit testimony, scattered relics, and more recently the discovery of the sunken ships. From the moment the expedition disappeared, the British public grew anxious and pressured the government to act. In 1848, the first search missions were launched. Over the next 2 decades, more than 30 separate rescue teams scoured the harsh Arctic for traces. They found scattered clues, abandoned boats, human bones, fragments of ships, and a few surviving journals. But most remarkable were the accounts of the Inuit, the indigenous people of the region. They spoke of white men pulling sleds, of ships trapped in ice, and of cannibalism in desperation. Initially dismissed, these accounts were later confirmed by archaeological and forensic discoveries. Recent investigations, including exhumation and DNA analysis, suggest the crew may have died from a combination of starvation, extreme cold, illness, and lead poisoning from canned food. These details paint a clearer but far more tragic picture of the expedition's final days. For over 150 years, people continued to search for the wrecks of Franklin's two ships. Then, a breakthrough came in 2014 when a Canadian archaeological team discovered HMS Erebus at the bottom of Queen Maud Gulf, hundreds of kilometers from the predicted location. 2 years later, in 2016, they found HMS Terror nearly intact in Terror Bay, a site barely explored before. The ships lay beneath ice and cold sediment, preserved almost perfectly, from their hulls and personal belongings to interior furnishings. These discoveries not only confirmed many Inuit accounts, but also opened unprecedented opportunities to study the lives of the crew. Artifacts retrieved, including journals, tools, and human remains, are now being analyzed to answer lingering questions. How long did they survive after the ships were trapped? Where did they go? What were they hoping for as they tried to escape this frozen grave? These wrecks are now historical treasures and underwater memorials to men who never returned. The Franklin expedition is not just a story of disaster, but a tale of humanity's confrontation with extreme nature. For years, the crew's image was romanticized, brave heroes facing the ice in the name of science and national pride. But as truths emerged, the narrative grew darker and more human. These men may have panicked, fallen ill, and descended into despair. Some likely died from tuberculosis, pneumonia, or lead poisoning from spoiled canned food. Others perished while trying to escape, dragging heavily loaded boats across ice and snow. In the final stages, when all hope had faded, some seemed to have resorted to cannibalism to survive, a shocking but perhaps inevitable choice. Still, what makes the Franklin expedition remarkable is its blend of tragedy and grandeur. The extraordinary efforts to survive, the details passed down through Inuit memory, and the persistence of modern people in piecing together their fate. Today, the legacy of the Franklin expedition lives on, not only in the shipwrecks beneath the sea, but in Inuit memory and modern research. Listening to the Inuit, once disregarded, has proven the irreplaceable value of indigenous knowledge in uncovering and understanding history. It was their oral stories that ultimately led archaeologists to the shipwrecks. More than that, the Franklin expedition raises questions about the nature of progress, empire, and how we view failure. It is not merely a maritime disaster, but a testament to the limits of technology when facing wild and mysterious nature. Today, as the Arctic becomes a geopolitical and environmental focal point, the lessons of the past feel even more urgent. Ongoing projects to preserve the wrecks, reconstruct the journey, and retell the story through film, exhibitions, and research help keep this memory alive. Above all, it reminds us that history is not only what's written down, but what is passed on, heard,